Brock, what's happening, man?
Hey, Chris, good to see you.
Good to see you too, man. Wait, what are we here for again?
Well, Chris, if we turn back the clock to 1850, do you realize we'd be 6 to 7 feet underwater?
That's right, actually, I did know that. I know that this is kind of a busy hustle and bustle around this area of town nowadays, but back in the time of the frontier, this was probably the biggest superhighway, right? And one of the most important trade routes along the way to the Mississippi.
That's exactly right. And so today on Hallmark Moments in History, we're exploring the Wabash and Erie Canal. Stay with us, you might learn a little something along the way. All right, so any story about the Wabash and Erie Canal starts right here. This is 114 East Superior Street, and behind us is the oldest structure in Fort Wayne. It is the Canal House.
Right.
Now, the Canal House, this land was owned by Samuel Hanna, one of the founding fathers of Fort Wayne and the lead backer of the Wabash and Erie Canal. So let's just set the table here a little bit. The Wabash and Erie Canal was the longest canal built in its time at 470 miles. And the biggest thing about the canal, Chris, was it was able to take goods from the Great Lakes, work through the rivers and waterways of the canal, and eventually get everything all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico. So this is a massive project, not only for goods, but also for passenger transport.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Chris, do you know why they started the Wabash and Erie Canal project right here in Fort Wayne?
Because they really were a big fan of the tin caps?
That's absolutely not correct.
Oh, okay.
It was actually because this is the highest point on the Wabash and Erie Canal.
Yes, that was guess number 2.
Okay, and that is why we are called the Summit City. So there's a little fact for you.
All right, Brock, so we're the Canal House, but I mean, what were they doing to pull these canal boats down? Were they pushing them by hand? How were they doing this?
Yeah, well, Chris, they were using horse and ox, and they would tie up to the boats.
Okay.
And so they're, on a, I think it was called a passenger packet boat, you would have actually a saloon at the front of the boat for men. You'd have the men's quarters. You would then have items in the middle. You would have the ladies' quarters and a ladies' saloon. So I think we'll have a picture here of kind of what that looked like. It was probably not a real pleasant journey.
I can imagine.
These are pretty narrow boats. So if you can imagine right behind us where you can see the infrastructure for the railroad there, that would have been where the canal ran right through the heart of Fort Wayne.
All right, so you said that we were called the Summit City because we were the highest point. So what's the difference? Why didn't they just go all the way downhill and just kind of ride it like a water slide?
Well, that's a great question, actually, Chris. So the canal is kind of an engineering marvel, and much like today, there had to be locks where a canal boat would come in, stop, water would be pumped in to raise or remove to lower that canal boat to the appropriate elevation so it could keep going.
Ah, I got you. So what happened? They just decided that water travel was no fun anymore, or what?
Well, not that. There were several reasons why the canal was kind of a nightmare. It was never really profitable. There was lots of problems. The water was stagnant. There was tons of mosquitoes. There were issues, but probably the biggest problem, one of the biggest problems, was the muskrat.
Ah, I see those vermins.
Yes, so a muskrat would come into the canal, burrow through the wall of the canal, and that thing would just drain right out the other side.
Huh.
You got no water.
Yeah, you can't get anywhere. Okay, I gotcha. So then in comes the railroad, and we become what then?
Yeah, so in comes the Nickel Plate Railroad. So one of the things about Fort Wayne, as you can see, is this railroad's just running right through the heart here, and it really goes right over the old path of the canal. So when the railroad came in, it was easy to claim that land and purchase it for rail transport without having to demolish people's homes and really, take eminent domain or anything like that.
Right on. So talk about getting things for a pittance.
There you go. So the lock system, Chris, back in the 90s, outside of New Haven, when they were putting in 469, they actually found the Grenauer lock, and they found the timbers of the lock, and it was in place. There used to be a plaque there. They've moved that plaque since with some road construction, but that lock has been recreated in the Indiana State Museum in Indianapolis, if you ever want to check that out.
Right on, that's pretty cool. So where does this go? I mean, I obviously see a railroad here, but where did it go from Fort Wayne?
Yeah, so from here, we're going to actually kind of follow Jefferson, Highway 24 through Huntington. We're going to head out west towards Lafayette, Delphi, Lafayette, that direction before it kind of turns south, if you will. So I think we have some footage of the canal boat in Delphi. There's an interpretive center there that talks a little bit about the canal, and you'll see the waterway. So yeah, that's kind of the route, and eventually it connects into the Ohio River, which connects to the Mississippi, which gets you down to the Gulf of Mexico.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. So all of that started from right here in Fort Wayne.
That's right.
Pretty cool.
That's right. So we hope you learned a little bit about this hallmark moment in history. We're going to keep bringing you these in all the communities we serve. So if you've got an idea for something that we need to talk about or let the community know that happened right in your neck of the woods, give us a call, leave a comment, let us know where we should go next. That's going to do it for another episode of HHMtv. I'm Brock, he's Chris.
And this has been another moment in Hallmark history.
We'll see you next time.